Should I get up?
I'll stay right there.
Because I don't want to be sitting out here looking like an idiot. Oh. Good afternoon and welcome to AM News Network presents Summary Judgment, our weekly commentary and talk show. I'm attorney Rachel Baird and I'll be joined shortly by my co-host Ed Peruta. We are down one man today. Master Control is not here, taking some time off. So Ed is back at the controls getting the show started. We're going to kick off first with a call from J.C. Playford. He's going to tell us about an incident or a string of incidents that happened in a California courthouse this past week when he was attempting to cover two trials. And I'll let him talk more about the trials, but my understanding is that one of the trials involves a football player and the other trial is an excessive force case where the defendants may be two police officers, either one or two police officers. JC, if you are listening right now, I think we can get started on the call-in. Or I could just go ahead and call him. I'll wait for Ed to come out. I was talking. Excuse me?
I'm coming.
He's coming. I was talking to JC. By the way, we're transmitting live from the American News Media Center in Harwinton, Connecticut. I'm not sure I said where we were transmitting from. Good afternoon, Ed. Are you ready for the show?
We are without master control, normal master control today, so I will be going in to play some videos.
I cannot believe that I don't know JC's number by heart. For those of you who don't know JC, he is
9525.
a videographer in San Diego. His YouTube site is News Now San Diego, and we've been working with him for about 9 or 10 years now, right, Ed?
Yes.
JC.
JC.
Hey, buddy.
Okay, I'm here. Now,
I'm here.
let me set this up.
Well, let's let JC set it up a little
Okay.
bit.
Well, you need to get the email that came from the clerk.
I will do that.
Okay.
Okay. So how do you want to start this, JC? Can you tell us what court you were in this past week?
I was at the Vista Court in
And
Vista, California, which is basically considered the North County Courts for San Diego.
go ahead, Ed. Ask him some questions.
All right, JC. There were two trials taking place in San Diego this past week. One involved a former NFL football player accused of rape,
Yes.
and one involved two deputies accused of assaulting someone who was in their custody.
Correct.
And you showed up at the courthouse.
Correct.
Now, you contacted me while you were at the courthouse and explained to me some of the stuff that was going on with a Sergeant Haynesworth, Hayne Worth, whatever, okay?
Right.
And some other deputies.
Correct.
Now, I'm going to see if I can walk through based on what I know. You walked into the courthouse.
Yep.
They have a metal detector. It's like the place where everybody's greeted by sheriff's deputies.
I think when JC was telling the story earlier, they called a screening out there, right, JC?
Yeah.
We refer to it as metal. You refer to it as screening, but there is a metal detector.
Right.
They search your handbags. They pat you down. You go through metal. They give you a wand.
They use X-ray machines for your personal belongings.
Right. Okay, now, the only part that I want to say is this, and then I'm going to let you tell the rest. You showed up at the courthouse, and you asked, where is the former NFL trial going on? where is the deputy trial going on?
Correct.
And you were informed they're both taking place on the 3rd floor.
Correct. They're both taking place on the 3rd floor.
Now, the former NFL player was in Department 22?
Correct.
Okay. And the 2 deputies were in Department 25?
Correct.
Okay. So, did the deputies at Metal or at their meeting area, greeting area, know who you were?
I've never entered these buildings where they don't know who I am.
Okay, now, so you leave the lobby, get in an elevator, and go to the 3rd floor.
Correct.
And why don't you tell the story your way about getting to a courtroom, into a courtroom, taken out of a courtroom, do whatever. Go ahead and tell the story, because I have, I think, 4 different video clips that are up on YouTube that you did record regarding your incidents at the courthouse.
Yes.
So JC, when you tell the story, kind of pause every once in a while, because we may want to ask questions to clarify, okay?
Hold on. I got a dog issue here. Hold on. Okay, I'm
Do you
back.
hear that dog in the background, Deb?
Yes.
Okay.
Big ones.
So you went through screening and you made it through successfully. Where did you proceed from there?
I went straight to Department 22, which was the NFL player. When I walked in, they were playing video from one of the body cameras that the detective took while doing the investigation with one of the victims.
And why did you go in that courtroom?
Because with that courtroom, I actually have an interested Hollywood type news organization that actually wanted me to ask a question of the family in that courtroom.
Now, when were you going to ask the question of the family?
My questions to the family were supposed to be staying towards concussions. If the NFL should be looking at this, if there any way that this ties back to something that happened during his football experience, kind of in the same manner as with Junior Seau.
So take us step by step through what happened after you entered that courtroom.
Well, I entered that courtroom and I looked up and I saw that they had family on one side, police in another area, and media personnel. So I sat with the media personnel.
In Department 22, the retired NFL player trial.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, Deputy Vargas immediately snatched me up and told me to go sit on the other side. And you really couldn't see as well from the other side. You know, they got these videos, things going on and things like that. You really couldn't see as well. So I wanted to stay with my peers. And, so I told him, I said, well, I'm with the media. He said, come here outside, let me talk to you. He dragged me outside. He goes, you're with the media? I said, yes. I said, he goes, do you have press credentials? I handed him my press credentials. He told me that they weren't sufficient enough, that they had to be SDPD press credentials.
Now, hold on, JC. You handed him a yellow media card issued by American News to you.
Yes.
Got it.
But this gets interesting because we are now standing outside of the media area where we have at least 3 to 4 members of our local media standing right there. You know, they got the camera stuff that's being sent out of the courtroom to them. So they're right outside the door, and I hand Deputy Vargas my press credentials, and he starts telling me how they're not accepted in the courthouse, and I kept telling him, yes, they are. And he asked me for my ID. And I said, sir, have I committed a crime? He said, no.
What?
I said, well, then you don't get my ID.
What do
You
you?
have my press credential.
What do you mean the information was being fed out of the courtroom to the media?
No, because
I can explain
in
it.
that courtroom, they have what you call pool video. So they'll have one cameraman in there, and they'll have media guys outside watching a screen to see what they want to use.
So Jay,
they run it outside to the media,
so
outside the room by cables.
so there's somebody recording in the courtroom, correct?
Correct.
And so whatever happened in the courtroom would have been recorded by somebody.
Maybe.
Maybe. Okay.
Let
Go
me
ahead.
explain.
You got to understand the camera stays pointed at what's going on with the scene, with the witnesses and all that and what's going on. When people are sitting down in the courtroom, you don't normally see that on TV.
Okay.
You normally, because the cameras aren't pointed over there. And he whispered to me, so I just politely got outside. But when we got out in the hallway, there were several members of the media there.
Of the local San Diego media.
Yes. And all of them know who I am. Right? And I hand him our media credentials, and he's telling me they're not good enough. Now he starts demanding my physical ID. And I'm asking him, have I committed a crime? And he's telling me no. So I tell him, you don't get my physical ID. You can only have my press credentials. Then he starts to get a little bit, I want your ID. And I went, really? With that attitude, sir? I want my press credentials. He goes, well, I'm holding them right now. I said, not anymore. So for the next 5 minutes, I just kept, I want my press credentials now. He's like, I'm not done with it yet. I said, well, you guys have stolen them in the past. You're not keeping this one. I want it back now. And that's when he brought in Sergeant Hainsworth. He got on the phone and he called. And Sergeant Hainsworth and another deputy came up, and I actually believe it was the deputy from 25 who came up at this particular. And they started giving me a little bit of shit. And they're telling me, well, you don't have the proper media stuff, so you're not sitting with media. Go sit on this side. So I just shut my mouth and I went and sat inside. Got an idea of what was going on, and I identified the people I needed to talk to outside the building. After I had everybody identified from that courtroom, like I said, I had some Hollywood players that were interested in that. When I left that courtroom, I went over to number 25 where the deputies were because I wanted to physically see the deputies. I wanted to know if I knew them. I wanted to know what they looked like, and I had questions for them in the parking lot. So I wanted to know who it was I needed to talk to.
All right, stop for a minute, JC. You went into the courtroom in 22 to the retired NFL player trial
Right.
to try and identify family members of the NFL player who's charged with rape.
Correct.
A major media outlet, national media outlet, had requested that if possible, you, American News, whoever, ask the family questions about possible brain injuries and does it have any effect, could it have any effect on why he did what he did. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you identified the family members because you would ask them questions outside the courthouse after the trial recessed or terminated for the day. That's what you would do.
Correct.
That's what you were asked to do.
Correct.
That was your assignment.
Correct.
Okay, now you go up to part 25 and you're walking in because you want to see what the deputies look like, the two deputies that are on trial. You want to see what they're wearing, what type of clothing, so that when they leave the courthouse, you can approach them and ask them questions.
Correct.
Okay. And again, this is not just your everyday trial in the United States or in Texas or Florida or California. These are two deputies that are in standing trial. And you have every right in the world as the media to approach an accused coming out of a courthouse on the street, on the sidewalk, and ask them if they have any comments.
Correct.
Now, to go back a little bit so that the people on the other side of the camera can understand this, the courts normally only permit one still camera and one video camera, usually on a tripod, to operate in the courtroom.
In most circumstances, that's correct.
He then takes a wire and it goes out into the lobby in front of the courthouse, and there's a monitor of what the camera sees, and other people can plug in and capture the video to use it, so you don't have 20 cameras in a courtroom, you don't have 2 cameras in a courtroom. But there's usually a pool area where I can come in and plug in audio and video and capture what that one cameraman is shooting in the courtroom. The judge, the witness box, the defense table, the prosecutor table, possibly not the jury, possibly not any spectators, but he's capturing what's going on in the courtroom.
Has that ever happened in Connecticut?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And it very often happened at the Supreme Court in Connecticut, where there's a room where CTN or somebody would be filming and somebody else could plug into it and capture the video, or when it's all over, somebody hands them a copy of a CD or a DVD or an SD card or a thumb drive and says, here's the video we captured today.
Okay.
All right, now, so you're on the 3rd floor, you're confronted in Department 22 by a Deputy Vargas who does not recognize American News media credentials and says to you, they aren't good enough.
Correct. And then he backed it up with his sergeant.
Sergeant Hainsworth.
Hainsworth. Yeah.
Now you go on the same floor to courtroom Department 25.
Correct.
And do you walk into the, and in 22, you went in and actually sat with the other members of the media.
No, he sat.
Initially, I did. Correct.
Okay.
Initially in 22, you sat with them where you know who the media is. You sat with the media.
Well, that's why the deputy came over
Now,
and made him get up.
Let me explain for the people on the other side of a camera that sometimes there's big television monitors used in the courtroom that blocks the view of spectators. So they'll sit the media in a place where their view is unobstructed. Or in some cases, they put them where the view is obstructed. But the media had a better vantage point than the general public in Department 22, the NFL trial.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, all along, these people are talking about SDPD press credentials, but in that courtroom was courtroom TV, and I just can't imagine how courtroom TV has SDPD press credentials since they're never here.
Gotcha.
Well, I think I remember from the case that we still have pending, actually, about media credentials. If you look at the San Diego Police Department's requirements, they talk about major news stations that are just de facto recognized as media organizations. It's only if you're not mainstream media or part of the traditional media where they demand that you have San Diego press credentials. That's my understanding from the case.
And
That's pretty much the way it is.
And
Yeah.
the opinion of American News has been and currently is, I don't care who San Diego Police Department issues media credentials to and the criteria for getting them. But you must,
I don't care either.
but you must recognize American News credentials on an equal footing with any government issued media credentials.
Correct.
Now, let's go back to and start talking about Department 25. The 2 deputies are on trial. What's going on in the courtroom? What happens in the courtroom? when you addressed the judge after the recess, whether the jury was in the courtroom or not, because this gets very, very interesting based on information that Rachel and I now have in our possession in an email that you need to read. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, when we get into 25, I go in, I sit down at 25, and, same thing's going on. They're playing videos in there. These are body camera videos, and these are graphic. And they've got a person sitting to my right with a camera and with their phone, and with her phone, she is basically sending everything out live to whoever. And with their other camera, their big camera, she's just picking it up intermittently and filming some things. So I sit there for a few minutes, and because they had a lot of suits and ties kind of over there at that one table where the deputies were. One of them I recognized right off the bat, but the other one I wasn't quite sure which one he was. Because they all were in black suits and stuff like that with their backs to me. So,
And JC, for the record, you were not dressed in a suit and tie.
No, I wasn't.
Thank you very much.
Right? So now I finally get them identified, and I go outside to do a little cameo for our channel.
A selfie.
Yeah, self-cameo, right.
Yeah.
Self-little video. Right? In the process of doing that, the deputy, the bailiff, comes out, and he goes, you can't have your camera on in there. You got to have your cell phone off. You can't be taking notes. You can't be typing. You can't be sending anything out of the courtroom without permission from the judge. And I went, that I understand. Right? And he goes, and you can't take no paper notes from pens and nothing. He goes, none of that stuff. And I go, you're telling me I cannot take a notebook and a pen and piece of paper as the general public and sit in that courtroom and take notes? He goes, if the judge ordered, no, you can't. He goes, you cannot use paper and pen in that courtroom either. He goes, that's the judge's orders. It's specific orders for this case. And I go, really? And he goes, yes. I said, okay. So from there, I'm kind of pissed.
Oh, we're losing you a little bit.
JC, bad connection.
While we're waiting for JC to come back, he reminded me of an incident here in Connecticut where a Judge Wendy Susko, she's since deceased, but back in 2006, it was a big story that during the sentencing portion of a highly publicized case, she had ordered reporters who were covering the proceedings, one from the Hartford Courant, to stop taking notes. Do you remember that? It caused a big stir here in Connecticut. And of course, the Hartford Courant reported on that, and she subsequently changed her mind, of course, but too late for that one particular hearing.
JC, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay,
Okay,
well, you were breaking up, and Rachel had something to say. But I want you to talk about going to the clerk. I want you to talk about the elevator ride, and I want you to say, one, did you ever attempt to videotape in a courtroom the other day?
No, I did not.
Did you
Cameron?
ever use your phone to record audio in the courtroom the other day?
No, I did not.
Did you ever use an electronic device, phone, laptop, tablet, whatever, to take notes in any courtroom in San Diego this past week?
No, I did not.
Did you do all of your recording, note-taking, and discussions outside of the courtroom except talking to the judge?
Correct.
Okay. Now, I want to hear about your conversation with the clerk. I want to hear you with your conversation in the elevator with members of the public in the elevator. And I want to hear about when they took a recess and the jury was gone and the judge stood up to leave the courtroom.
But we also want to hear about his meeting with the deputies in the deputy's office as well.
He was going down in the elevator. You got to go to the elevator to get to the office.
Right. Right.
Right.
Okay, so
Go ahead, JC.
Yeah. Okay, so when I go to deal with the clerks, they kind of just tell me, yeah, well, you just take a number. Okay, so I took that number. And it took about 30 minutes for them to finally get to me. You know, that was after I'd already went to the civil and all the other different departments. They told me to go to the criminal because it's a criminal case that I'm talking about, and it's a criminal court case that I'm talking about. You know, the criminal courtroom. So they kind of basically just treat me like bullshit. I keep asking for the presiding court judge for the courthouse. They're not giving them to me. They tell me the only presiding judge for the courthouse is in downtown. They're not giving me the phone number for that. You know, they're refusing to help me in any way, basically. They basically were just trying to snuff me the fuck off.
Okay,
And
JC,
then they went,
got to ask you a question. I don't like interrupting you, but I've got to. Do the clerks know who you are?
sometimes,
Okay.
some of them. I'm
Some
not sure
maybe
who
they
walks
maybe
up
they
and who don't.
maybe they didn't. Maybe they
Oh.
didn't.
You have over the years.
What I'm
But
trying
some of them know who I
Oh,
am.
God.
what I'm trying to ask you is this, and I'm going to use the words. Did you feel like there was retaliatory animus towards you as J.C. Playford, a representative of American News in the San Diego court system this past week?
Without a doubt.
Gotcha.
I was being fucked with because of who I am.
Yep. Now, continue the story about after the clerk and the ride in the elevator to the sergeant's office.
Okay. While I was waiting for my number to come through with the clerks, right? They basically were garbage. They wasted my time and everybody else's time. They were just playing the not happening in my courthouse. Shovel, you know, they're playing the shovel game. Goodbye, shovel it somewhere else. We're not dealing with it here. You know. So I go back up towards the courtroom, and the bailiff tells me I'm not coming in that courtroom. This is in 22 now. Tell me I'm no longer allowed in Department 22 because he said so. So he has a sergeant come over, which is Hainsworth, and we end up in this big thing out in the hallway. And he's going, well, why don't you come on down over here? But going back to Vargas, I must have asked him at least 50 different times very loudly to return my ID, my press credentials, and he kept refusing to. He held on to them and gave them to the sergeant, who then handed them back to me. Okay? Once I asked for my stuff back, he's got to give them to me. He don't have a right to hold them. He was telling me I'm not being held for any crime, so therefore he's got no reason to hold my personal property when I'm telling him to give it back to me. None. Okay?
Gotcha.
So now the sergeant's like, well, let's go talk about this downstairs. And as we're going downstairs to his room, into his elevator, into his little office, okay, there's some gentlemen on the elevator. These gentlemen on the elevator happen to be families and attorneys of number 22, the NFL star. These are people who I would need to get video of outside. These are people I need to talk to. But now I'm stuck dealing with this sergeant. So we go down into his office, and he kept telling me I couldn't record, but once he started committing the crimes and saying the shit he did, and I already knew that he legally couldn't tell me I couldn't record there.
Hold on, JC, because I've heard the story already. Did the sergeant make any statements to the private citizens in the elevator regarding you and American News and whatever?
Yes, as we were going down in the elevator, he said, be careful what you say around him. He's fake news.
So, Sergeant Hainsworth, in the presence of members of the NFL players' family, announced to them that you are fake news.
Yes.
Good. That sets up a real situation where they're not going to talk to you. But go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, tell me about it. These are the people I need to talk to.
And he's telling them you're fake news. Go ahead.
But it gets even better, because that one guy in the
What?
Are you ready for this?
What? What? Where?
Yeah,
Kind of give us some.
Love this. This Deputy Vargas, had this one lawyer who was in that elevator out when I first entered the courtroom, because then outside the courtroom was a sign that said designated media area only, right outside the door. And they had it roped off and they had the media sitting there. And he took a picture of them in a designated media area. And this deputy was trying to give him shit. Well, if he's in a designated media area, why is he allowed to take a picture?
Hold on, let me just get this so I got it for everybody on the other side of the camera. A lawyer who may or may not have been involved with the family of the former NFL player was outside the courtroom and took a still photograph of the media area and the sign.
Correct.
And the deputy chastised that attorney publicly for taking a photograph in the courthouse.
Correct.
Got it. Now you're in the elevator.
Designated media. It's designated media.
Can I ask you a question, JC?
Yes, ma'am.
These deputies that you were dealing with, or any of the deputies in the courthouse, were they wearing body-worn cameras?
I was looking for them. I didn't see them. I was hoping they had them, but I honestly didn't see any of them on them.
We're going to check out the regulations and rules to see if they're supposed to be wearing them, and we'll check out to see if they were wearing them.
Well, Rachel, hold on, JC. If you remember an incident in the Middletown Courthouse in Connecticut, you were able to obtain court surveillance video that showed what occurred.
Yes.
One time I was being pushed,
Yes.
okay? And there was another incident, that was in New Britain, then there was one incident in Middletown. So I believe that the San Diego court system probably has surveillance video of the exterior area around 22 and 25. The question is, do they have audio? Now,
No.
I doubt there's audio in the elevator, but there could be. Every once in a while, you'll see in an elevator a monitor.
Right.
That could have audio. And the question is, was the sergeant's office under video and audio surveillance? Now, here's what I'm going to say. Here's what I'm going to say to you, JC, and this is the gist I'm getting from the attorney sitting next to me. I think we need to send a letter to the San Diego court system asking
I
them,
think you need to send a letter to the state court system
well,
asking them to explain what's going on inside that courthouse.
okay. There's a prop, you know something, JC? Keep telling the story about going down in the elevator to the office.
Well,
Okay.
you know, when you talk
Okay.
about...
I mean, I gotta kind of hurry this up because I got some things I'm doing over here.
Oh,
so-
okay, go ahead. We'll let you finish up, and then we can talk about it.
Okay, so we're in the elevator, we're going down, and they tell these people and one of my target people, okay, to talk to. The deputy goes, "Be careful what you say to this guy. He's fake news." Okay, and I was like, "Motherfucker, check this guy out, right?" So we get down to the bottom of the elevator, and we go over to his room. And as we're heading into his little thing, he's telling me I can't record in there. Well, I already know I can't because I've recorded in many of them already, and we've been through this a million times. But I was trying to keep it downplayed a little bit, so I didn't turn on my camera just yet. But once he started spewing his mouth about how our press credentials were not acceptable in the courthouse, I said, "Fuck you, I'm turning on my camera." And I recorded what he was saying. You know, there's no mistaking what he's saying. He's saying that our press credentials are not recognized by them. But I must have SDPD press credentials. But if you listen to that video even closer, he makes it even another statement in that video. And he goes, "You must get court press, go fill out my paperwork to get courthouse press credentials." San Diego doesn't have courthouse press credentials.
And what about
You know.
note-taking?
All right, so now, because you got to go someplace, you went up to the courtroom and entered the courtroom and waited for the judge, and there's this like 30-second period when the judge says, we're in recess, and the judge stands up to leave the courtroom.
Correct.
What happened?
The judge, after the jury had left the courtroom, the judge stood up. And I went, Your Honor, is it your order for this courtroom that private citizens cannot take handwritten notes here? Sir, is this your order, sir? And I was screaming at him, did you give that order? And he goes, we're in recess. As we were walking out the door, the deputy goes, I didn't tell you you couldn't say that. And I turned around and I pointed at him. The door was kind of halfway open, halfway closed. And I pointed right at his chest. And I said, yes, you did, motherfucker. Your words are this, that only media approved by the judge could take handwritten notes in this courtroom and photography. That's your words, motherfucker.
And you were never even trying to take notes or trying to photograph or record anything in the first place, right?
Correct. But this is how what I go through at every courthouse in San Diego, every damn time. And when you guys talk to I'm going to have you guys call a witness. I'm going to give you their name off the air. And I'm going to have you call a witness to somebody who watched what the San Diego sheriffs have done to me in another courthouse.
All right,
And when you
JC?
find out who this person is, you're going to go, holy shit.
JC, go do what you got to do. What we're going to do is we're going to read my letter to the clerk. We're going to read the lawyer's response, the clerk's response to Attorney Baird.
Well, I never got involved yet.
They addressed the
They
email to
addressed
you.
it to me, but I
They
haven't
didn't
written
address it to
anything.
me.
But I haven't written anything to anybody
No,
yet.
I wrote it.
Right. Right.
Okay, so
What?
go do what you got to do, and then we're going to play your videos. I'm going to see if I can get them up and play them. Okay? And we'll go from there, but go do what you got to do.
All right, buddy.
Thanks,
Okay?
JC.
All right. Now,
Bye-bye.
if you go to... Now, my email is the bottom, so let me read mine.
Okay, now read it clearly and slowly.
Yep, I'm
Don't
gonna
rush
read
through
mine.
it. If we're going to read
gonna
it, make
read
sure everybody
mine.
understands it.
I'm going to read mine, and then I'm going to read a response that came to
me.
the office.
Okay, I'll read that one.
This is a email to a Karen Dalton, Dalton. Her email is Karen, Karen, Dalton, Dalton, at sdcourt, SDCOURT, .ca.gov.
Now, why did you write to her?
Because I saw her email. She may be the media person for the courts.
Uh-huh.
All right.
Well,
So-
but how did you see her email? How did she get involved?
I typed a letter
Uh-huh.
regarding JC's issue
Right.
and needed to send it to someone in the courthouse,
Mhm.
and it speaks for itself. Ms. Dalton, this email with the attached list of media organizations recognized by the Connecticut Judicial Department is being sent to verify the media status of American News and Information Services, Inc., Representative J.C. Playford. We request that you forward this notice with attachment of Mr. Playford's status to Presiding Judge Harry M. Elias, E-L-I-A-S, and Deputy District Attorney Leonard Trin, T-R-I-N-H, in the current trial of Deputy Nicholas Morgan and Deputy Joshua Nahan. Mr. Playford has been and currently is a credentialed member / representative of American News and Information Services, Inc., and has in his possession a media ID card issued by our organization. Mr. Playford's media status is documented in a case regarding Mr. Playford and American News currently pending before the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals in Sacramento. The court is currently awaiting a decision in Nieves v. Bartlett, docket 17-1174, pending before the U.S. Supreme Court, the Supreme Court of the United States, related to First Amendment rights in cases involving retaliatory and arrests. The court previously delayed their decision while awaiting the outcome of Lozman v. City of Riviera Beach, Florida, and I give a link to it, which was decided by the U.S. Supreme Court on June 18, 2018. The Ninth, meaning the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, following the Lozman decision, then chose to await the Nieves v. Bartlett case, which is a case originating in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. The Nieves case has been argued before the U.S. Supreme Court, and a decision is expected to be released prior to the end of June. The Nieves case will have a direct impact on Mr. Playford and his status as a member of the media in San Diego County, and may lead to additional litigation regarding incidents similar to what happened in your courts yesterday. We consider the actions of San Diego sheriffs working in your courts as retaliatory acts against Mr. Playford, and am currently assessing our options on how to proceed. Yesterday, the deputies working in your courthouse prevented Mr. Playford from sitting in an area along with other members of the media. Gotta get this, hold on, I just lost my place. And publicly made statements that he is, quote, fake media, unquote. These acts and public statements are, in our opinion, clearly retaliatory in nature, as Mr. Playford and one of the deputies have a history of a similar nature while the deputy was assigned to the Ramona Sheriff's Office. Should you, the Deputy District Attorney, or the presiding judge have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact Attorney Rachel M. Baird or the undersigned. Respectfully, Edward A. Peruta, American News and Information Services Incorporated, 15 Burlington Road, Harwinton, Connecticut, 06791, and I give 2 phone numbers. Now, what I did was I called up the Connecticut Judicial Department. I spoke to Rhonda Hebert, who sent to me the list of approved media organizations to be in courthouses and film in Connecticut courts. And under the title, there are Wire Services, and they've got the Associated Press and Bloomberg. Under daily newspapers, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. They've got 20 plus newspapers listed. Weekly newspapers, the Connecticut Law Tribune. Monthly newspapers, the Norfolk Now. And then they list TV stations. ABC News. Huh, what's that? American News and Information Services Incorporated. CNN. CTN. Channel 3, which is the CBS affiliate in Connecticut. Channel 8, which is the ABC affiliate in Connecticut. Channel 12, which is an independent station down along Long Island Sound, Channel 30, which is the NBC affiliate in Connecticut, Channel 61, which is the Fox affiliate in Connecticut, and Court TV, Fox News New York, Frontline PBS, News 22, which is an NBC affiliate in Springfield, RTE, which is the Irish National TV, and WTXX, which is another lower band but owned TV station. Then they have radio stations. Connecticut Radio Network, WDRC, WILI.
Well, but we're on the TV.
Okay. Internet. Then they have internet news media. Connecticut Mirror, Courtroom View Network, It's Relevant, NancyOnNorwalk.com, New Haven Independent, and The Patch. Then they have other media. Now get this. The ACLU of Connecticut and the ACLU Foundation of Connecticut.
Mm-hmm.
Adam Pergoff and Thomas Blames of Cambridge, Mass. Sinflix Motives 4 Inc., Toronto, Canada. Law and Crime Network. Plum Pictures, England. Reveal News, Rachel DeLeon. And the Republican/MassLive.com.
Some of those sound kind of new.
Please, and they don't publish it on the internet anymore because they say it's always changing. They're always adding stuff on. Please note that the Office of the Chief Court Administrator reserves the right to remove an entity from the approved list of media organizations that does not comply with the practice book rules or any established protocol. I sent that to Karen Dalton, who is like a media rep in the clerk's office or for the courts. Now, what happened was there was a response, and the response was sent to Attorney Rachel Baird and to P. Monterio, who's the office manager here at American News. Now, I'm going to let you read
One reason
the
I want to
email
read it is
that came
because
to you.
I actually haven't read it yet. I wasn't even aware that you were sending out that email. And the first time I talked to JC about what happened was this morning. Before the show,
Yep.
we went into a lot of detail, and I took notes.
So now you have J.C. Playford, and I had said J.C. Playford, I don't believe he ever instigates antagonism with law enforcement or fire or whoever, but he does respond.
Yes.
In other words, if you let him do what he's going to do, which is a media function, he gets it and he leaves. If you fuck with him, he will fuck back. And he doesn't hold back when he does it.
Right.
And you're going to hear in this email where they put a lot of emphasis on the way JC responded to what happened, but they have no idea of why JC did what he did or said what he said. Now, read that.
I mean, I read a little bit of it already, and not only do they mischaracterize it in the way that you just said, but it is in direct contrast, a lot of the points she makes, to what JC just told us.
Well, that's why I believe we have now J.C. Playford's scenario and timeline on video, and we have a clerk or Karen Dalton's response with what she considers the facts. Did she look at any video, interview any witnesses, other than possibly a deputy who JC's already said? He said, I didn't say that. JC said he did. I believe JC.
Okay.
And I'm sure that the judge has said, yeah, that guy stood up in the courtroom and said all kinds of shit. Well, guess what, Your Honor? Tag your deputies. Don't go after my cameraman. Go ahead and read it, please.
Okay, so, Dear Miss Baird, as directed, I am sending this correspondence to you.
She's directed. As directed.
Well, I think you directed.
Okay, but
Yeah.
I directed, but what I'm saying is I think maybe the judge said respond to this. But go
yeah,
ahead.
but the judge wouldn't direct her to send it to me. They wouldn't even know who I was unless you had told them.
Go ahead.
The San Diego Superior Court recognizes Mr. Playford as a member of the media, as it does with any member of the public who self-identifies as media. I like to have that in writing. That's great. No, we have this in writing now, right?
The deputies don't know about it, but go ahead. I'm not going to say anything.
Well, no, we can go through and discuss it as I go.
Go ahead.
The court expects such individuals to be treated equally as those who may be considered traditional media.
JC is not traditional media. Go ahead.
He's becoming more and more traditional, though.
Every human being, even Big Shitty, and the people, News Now Houston, News Now North Georgia, News Now anybody with a cell phone and a video camera is now becoming traditional media, but in my opinion. But go ahead.
Accordingly, the court expects all members of the public and media to follow the rules inside the courthouse and the courtroom. So my question is based on this. When JC walked into the courtroom initially and sat with the media, why was he told to move when in fact by sitting with the media, obviously he self-identified as the media?
And he presented a media press credential, an ID card, issued by American News.
Both the judge and the bailiff say...
Oh, well, one more thing. There is no evidence in this email that J.C. Playford was recording with video or taking electronic notes or using a pen and pencil in the courtroom. Go ahead.
Both the judge and the bailiff say your client is providing you misinformation and was a disruptive force in courtroom. Just want to make clear, at that point, I had no information yet.
Let me give my
From
editorial
anybody.
comment on this. Yes, I will be happy to acknowledge that J.C. Playford probably became a disruptive force in the courtroom, but not during a session of the court. It was only after a recess was called and the judge was exiting the courtroom. During the trial, during the evidence phase, when the jury was in the room and someone was on the stand or they were JC did nothing except talk to deputies.
Well, I guarantee, based on my knowledge of the courtroom, that when the deputy approached JC initially, when JC was sitting in the media section, all eyes would have gone to that deputy and away from the video and away from the evidence to see what the deputy was doing.
Now,
So that's disruptive.
for the record, in Connecticut, the media has the right to use a laptop, an electronic device, a laptop, to take notes as the trial is ongoing during the trial. Summary judgment. Summary judgment.
No, it could.
Hey, am I live on your show right now?
You are, but can you call back in a couple
Well,
minutes?
let him go. Let him go. We're at a good point. Hi. What are you listening to the show today?
Yes, I am. This is the pen and the sword. How you guys doing today?
Good. Thanks for calling.
This is the pen and the sword?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yep. Now, do me a favor. Turn the volume down on your computer because there's a delay.
Okay,
Pen and the sword. That seems a very appropriate person to be calling in.
I'm calling from a phone right now.
Okay.
Not a
Yep.
computer.
Yep.
Go ahead.
I don't have you live, so if there's any feedback, it should be on your end.
Okay,
Well,
go ahead.
Probably.
How you guys doing today? I just wanted to, I was trying to listen. I noticed some of your viewers, I don't know if you were aware, can't hear what you're saying. The volume might be low on your end. And
Okay.
Then, I also wanted to just ask why commenters aren't, I don't know if anybody's reading the comments, why they aren't included in the conversation.
All right, I can explain that. This program is done out of the Northwest Hills of Connecticut. And back of me is Attorney Baird's law firm.
Well, why don't we just
And
tell
on,
them? We
and
don't
on
have
this
the
side,
personnel.
and on this side is a studio. Normally, we have somebody in master control, one person, who kind of controls the volume, monitors the quality, but he happens to be in Boston. I think he was up there covering the plea bargains in the college scandal. But what I'm saying is, we don't have the resources to have somebody monitoring the comments, and we apologize.
But you know what? This makes me
I
think.
understand.
This makes
If
me.
I may speak for a second?
Oh, okay. Let me write this down because I don't want to
Let me
forget.
turn the volume up in master control.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. If I may, I just, if you guys ever wonder about trying to increase interaction or viewers, you might actually get even more phone calls in and more views. And if I do like SEO, so I understand how that works. And if you ignore a lot of the commenters, they'll just they'll use your chat as a stream. So if you include some, find a way, maybe use a phone or a computer or anybody, if you could just log on and maybe reply even as your own channel, you probably would get a giant boost. That would be my advice.
No, thank you. And what I'm thinking is, if the person that does that doesn't necessarily have to be physically present in our studio. So if there's anybody interested in helping us out with that, give us a call when the show's over or email us, and maybe we can recruit some people out there to help us with that. That would be great.
All right. I appreciate you taking my call. I just wanted to say hi.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate
All
it.
right.
Thank
The
you.
pen on the sword. Have a good one.
Okay, bye, Pen and the Sword. So while Ed is back there trying to fix the issue that was brought to our attention by Pen and the Sword, and we really appreciate it, I'm going to go on reading this email that I received in response to an email that Ed sent to a clerk in the San Diego State Court. Mr. Playford requested to take notes using his cell phone, and he was informed he could do so as long as a media request form, MC 500/510, was filed with the court, which is required of all media members who want to use electronic devices. We heard from JC today, and JC indicated that he never brought up the issue of taking notes in the courtroom, and that he was merely there to identify some people in each of the trials by looking at their appearance so that he would recognize them outside the courtroom in the parking lot to get interviews from them. So I would be interested to know who he requested, who Ms. Dalton believes that JC requested to take notes. The forms are submitted so the judge knows who is allowed to use a laptop or cell phone in the courtroom. He was told only the media with proper request forms filed with the court would be allowed to use cell phones to take notes, post stories, etc. No members of the public are allowed to use cell phones in the courtroom. I have been informed that Mr. Playford was requested to submit the proper media forms to the court, but he has still not submitted those forms. Mr. Playford was informed that Judge Elias has ordered only one still camera be allowed at a time during the trial, and that full audio recording is okay with no video. These are all things that JC is aware of, and so it surprises me that there's an allegation that he was asking questions about these issues. I have been further informed that later in the day, after being provided with the information above, Mr. Playford came into the court and made a scene in front of Judge Elias and others when the court was breaking for lunch. Now that's consistent with what JC told us in our interview today, that the judge had called recess apparently for lunch, and that's when JC stood up and asked the judge about his orders or rules for note-taking. Mr. Playford claimed that he was told by the bailiff that he could not take notes with pencil and paper, which I am also informed did not happen. Students and other courtroom visitors are allowed on a daily basis to take notes with pencil and paper, which is totally acceptable. So it's nice to have that in writing, And probably JC should carry this email with him whenever he goes into a courthouse, a state courthouse from now on in San Diego. Mr. Playford has also illegally recorded inside the Vista Courthouse and uploaded the recordings on his YouTube page. And Ed is back there preparing to show the videos that I believe Miss Dalton is referring to. In the state of California, several high-volume courthouses, for example, LA, Orange County, San Diego, allow photography inside the courthouse only in designated interview areas. Ms. Baird, I have attached the court's media order. All local San Diego media members know these rules and follow these rules. Here is what your client posted on YouTube. The video clearly was not videotaped in the designated media area. And hopefully, in the next couple minutes or so, I will view this video with you for the first time. Or maybe you've already gone to JC News Now San Diego and viewed the video. As an officer of the court, I know you fully realize the court has a responsibility to ensure a fair trial for all defendants, and any individual who disturbs such trials, especially in front of jurors or flaunts courthouse rules, will be barred from proceedings, media or not. Now, I could give my thoughts on that preamble to that last sentence as an officer of the court, sort of throwing it at me that I'm a lawyer. And anyway, I'll leave it up to those who are watching to interpret why that was put there. But I don't know why Ms. Dalton refers to individuals who disturb trials in front of jurors. To my knowledge, she does not allege that JC did anything in front of jurors. JC says that no jurors were in the courtroom when he did ask the judge the question that he asked. Flaunting courthouse rules, I assume that she's referring to the recording that was made inside the courthouse. And I have to review the rules, and I have to look at the recording to determine what her position is and how accurate it is. So that's where we stand right now with that. And Ed is back there attempting to put that YouTube video up. Meanwhile, while Ed is doing that, I wanted to, first of all, my thought when JC spoke about the incident in the elevator where the deputy or bailiff or whatever he's referred to mentioned in the presence of members of the public that JC was fake news, which if the people in the elevator were people that JC planned on interviewing later on, then that may very well have impacted his ability to interview him that day or any day in the future as the trial proceeds. But instantly I thought of, and those of you who watch us regularly know, that we have supported Donald Trump since he first announced his campaign for the president, the election back in 2016. We still support him. We make it obvious that we support him. But there's no doubt that on occasion, or regularly, however you look at it, Donald Trump does accuse certain news outlets of being fake news, and in particular, CNN. Now, we know how JC felt when he was called fake news, because JC told us, and that included American news, because JC has an American news press credential. So, I just want to look at the other side of it and say, does CNN have a legitimate gripe when it comes to Donald Trump calling CNN fake news? Does it affect CNN's credibility, reliability, ability to do its job? Does a public official violate some sort of code, ethical code, common law, some common law, and I'm talking about defamation, interference with ability to do one's job, when that public official points out a particular news outlet or organization as fake news? But on the other hand, public officials don't forego their First Amendment right. But there's no doubt that when a public official calls a news organization fake news, that because of their position, it is taken in the vein that they're speaking on behalf of the government entity for whom they work. And in this case, I guess it would be the San Diego County Sheriff's Department. And in JC's case, where he has been arrested at least 4 times by the San Diego County Sheriff's Department.
Wait, 4 clips.
Okay, you ready, Ed?
4 clips.
I'm going to pick up because I want to.
Bear with me.
I want to hear Ed's input on this, and when the clips show up, then the clips show up, and we can interrupt this discussion about fake news and how much leeway public officials have to say such things and when it may affect a news outlet's business.
Are we getting audio? All right, we're going to try it again.
Okay,
Hey folks, I'm at the Vista
everybody
Courthouse
hang
for
in there.
Kevin Winslow Jr. rape trial.
Okay, I'm gonna
couple
try
things
it.
going
I'll
on, the
look.
family's all there, lots of lawyers in there, a lot of attention in that room. Okay, couple of questions. He's a black man, famous black man, not a single black person on his jury, not one. Okay, when it comes to Mr. Winslow, some questions as far as we have are, could the NFL's concussion issue be what put him there, knowing what it did with Junior Seau and some of the other guys? Is this guy also a victim of the NFL? And are these people now, he's alleged to have done these crimes to, also victims of the NFL? Because there's a lot going on concerning these concussions, and boy, oh boy, he got out of the NFL, and all of a sudden his behavior went absolutely crazy. So could concussions have played a part in this? We don't know yet, but we're going to find out.
Who, me? 10, 9, we're good?
All right, you know something? If they go to News Now San Diego, they can look at the 4 videos that JC posted. Okay. I apologize. I'm not as good in mass control as I thought I was. Did you read the letter?
I am not through it yet, but listen, I'm going to try something, Ed.
Here in Vista.
We're gonna listen to it an old-fashioned way because it's only him talking. Well, it's a little bit more, but anyway, let's
ahead.
get it out there.
Go ahead.
I'm outside Judge Elias's courtroom, number 25, here in Vista, California.
Oh,
It's a crying shame. Elias has always been a good judge here in our county. You know, hell, at one time I even came out and
That's a good
supported
idea.
this son of a bitch when the swamp scum creature Bonnie Dumonis tried to make a move on him. Okay, the fact that I got a deputy telling me that private citizens cannot take paper handwritten notes in this courtroom because there's deputies being tried for crimes that they committed while on duty allegedly is absolutely sickening and disgusting. Superior courts here in San Diego need to be straightened out and fixed. Denying citizens the right to take notes in a courtroom, Judge Elias, that's one of the scummiest things I've ever heard come out of this courthouse.
well, Well, that was somewhat of a innovative way to attempt this.
Attach these over your ball. And
I'm outside Judge Elias's courtroom, number 25, here in Vista, California. It's crying shame. Elias has always been a good judge here in our county. You know, hell, at one time I even came out and supported the son of a bitch when the swamp scum creature Bonnie Dumonis tried to make a move on him. Okay? The fact that I got a deputy telling me that private citizens cannot take paper handwritten notes in this courtroom because there's deputies being tried for crimes that they committed while on duty allegedly is absolutely sickening and disgusting. Superior courts here in San Diego need to be straightened out and fixed. Denying citizens the right to take notes in a courtroom, Judge Elias, that's one of the scummiest things I've ever heard come out of this courthouse.
Okay, so
Now
we're
the next one.
now it goes to other ones, Ed. So you're gonna have to help me.
Go to videos on the left.
Uh,
Okay, I'll get it.
No, you're gonna have to help. There you go. Okay.
Well, I got my leash on.
You know, I'm just wondering how much Judge Elias knows about all that's going on. I'm not sure he's the one to direct a lot of this vitriol toward. What do you think?
Well, let's go up to the. Did we do this one yet?
We've only done one. I repeated the first one. And I think we did that. Well, are they all in the same place? They all take place in the same place?
What's going on here?
Here. Maybe I can get it. Why don't we finish the
Finish the letter.
let's finish the letter, yeah.
Because the letter says the judge has. They know that he's posted on YouTube
Mm-hmm.
these videos.
You know, while you're up, could you take or I think Duke needs to go out.
Okay.
I have a dog. I have a dog that I rescued or adopted, whatever you call it, back in July of 2018. And he has one eye and he's missing half an ear. But then when I got him, it turned out he had another issue where he would just pee constantly. I mean, like for 2 minutes straight, and then drink tons of water. So it turns out he has this condition called diabetes insipidus, which is not the diabetes that everybody thinks of, as it has to do with sugar. This has to do with water. And so I looked it up, talked to the doctor. His pituitary gland was knocked or hit at some point, and its regulation over the kidney function was messed with, so he doesn't have this hormone called some diuretic hormone, and so he has to take medicine in the morning and at night, which is kind of expensive, which kind of fixes it, but he still has to go to the bathroom pretty often, at least every 4 hours. So thanks, Ed. Now you can't leave him outside. Oh, he already went? Okay, so let me continue reading this email. So here's what your client posted on YouTube. This video clearly was not videotaped in the designated media area. So you saw the video, we saw the video. I don't know. Do you think she might have a point there? She might. It didn't look like the media area to me.
Let me tell you something.
Yeah?
And to everybody, and I always say this, to the people on the other side of the camera. I met J.C. Playford 10 or 11 years ago. And I have said publicly, and I will say probably till the day I die, J.C. Playford does not have the skills, the verbal and emotional skills to nicely respond to people that are screwing over him. When you screw over J.C. Playford, his balls inflate and his mouth starts running. And if you listen to what he says, he's absolutely correct. And when you beat someone up over fake media credentials and you can't sit with here and you can't do this and you can't do that, you can expect a response.
Yeah.
So I would say to the clerk, Madam Clerk, you better get your shit together in the courthouse because J.C. Playford is not going to change, okay, when you're screwing over him. And American News is not going to do anything to J.C. Playford if you screwed over him first. In other words, I respect J.C. Playford and other quote-unquote First Amendment auditors who confront shitty judicial and law enforcement actions. There's nobody that supports law enforcement more than Attorney Baird and Ed Peruta. But we do not support bad law enforcement. We do not support violations of the First Amendment. We do not, it's just, I'm sitting here going, she put her fingers on a keyboard and responded and has yet to see or hear what led up to Mr. Playford's videotaping in an area other than approved media location, if in fact that's true.
Perhaps she was told things by the people involved, and she relied on that information in writing the email.
Well, it's happened to me. You know, I had a deputy chief at the Hartford Police Department say to me one time when I wanted to make a complaint, he goes, well, Ed, you know the drill, file a complaint. When he's asked under oath in a deposition, did you ever say it? He goes, I never said that. Or I could have, but I didn't. You know, these deputies know who J.C. Playford is. They know how J.C. Playford responds.
Well, how about the one video that JC has up on News Now San Diego where, is it in Riverside, where the one officer says, hey, you're J.C. Playford. I've seen you in training videos at the academy.
Exactly.
And I'm going to tell you, Ed, probably the training videos at the academy and the discussion that followed was not positive discussion about JC's characteristics. What would you say?
They don't know JC.
So they're preconditioned to go out there and confront him and assume there's going to be
Look,
a confrontation.
At a triple, quadruple, 5 people dead accident, an officer said you can't drive down the road. So JC starts running down the road, and over the radio you can hear, Playford's coming, and then they start putting up tape. You see, J.C. Playford is known in the San Diego law enforcement community as a person who sometimes gets there first. And I got to tell you, you know, there are a lot of national news organizations, and I'll give you a couple of them. It used to be 60 Minutes, Inside Edition, TMZ, and a lot of these different national news magazine formats rely on people to get clips for them to use during their program because they're in Los Angeles or New York, Washington, North Carolina, whatever, Chicago, and somebody like JC, they call him up because they know that JC will walk up to somebody and say, hey, I got a question. You know, he does that during Comic-Con out there in San Diego all the time. What I'm saying is, I believe that this situation has moved from the minor incident to the major incident category. And if the clerk and the judge don't like what J.C. Playford did, or they are upset with what he's put up on YouTube or the words that came out of his mouth, let's find out all of the words that came out of everybody's mouth. And I think that if this is a case where, God forbid, this is what the Nieves v. Bartlett, Alaska case is all about. In other words, yes, J.C. Playford may have disrupted or created a stir in a courtroom, but the question is, is the retaliatory animus acts of government actionable before that happened? You're forgetting one half of the story. Now, I don't know what Big Shitty gets involved in. I know what Dave Warden gets involved in. And I know what other people, because I don't really do that type of auditing. I've decided to maybe do Americans with Disabilities Act auditing, but I have a totally different attitude. And my attitude is this: record what's going on, walk away, and then the next day, when the action's gone down, you say, I need to see the judge. I need to talk to the judge. And then what they'll say to you is, you can't talk to the judge. The judge doesn't want to talk to you. Well, guess what? When he stands up and says, the trial is in recess, hey, you, I got to talk to you. And I've done that in Florida.
Yeah, talking about how they know J.C. Playford and who he is, I want to read a portion of a transcript of a deposition that I took of Jan Caldwell back on March 16th of 2016. Now, Jan Caldwell was the...
3 years ago.
Yeah, who
Public Information Officer for the San Diego Sheriff's Department.
Okay, and do you know if she's still there?
I think that she retired, and she may have come back, but she retired. But Jane Caldwell, at the time, was the Public Information Officer, a former FBI agent, and the PIO, Public Information Officer, for the San Diego Sheriff's Department, and we got to question her under oath.
Because she's part of the lawsuit.
Right.
That's now pending. So I'm going to go to page 70 of this transcript. And I had originally asked her if she knew about a poster of J.C. Playford that had been disseminated to deputies in the Sheriff's Department. And initially she said she didn't. And then when I asked some other questions...
She had to come back.
Yeah, about, a poster that was at Miramar.
Miramar Military Police Headquarters.
And they had sent the poster of JC over there because there was a funeral for somebody, the past, I think a past sheriff. So all this discussion kind of made me want to go to this page 70 of the deposition. And again, this was under questioning on March 16th, 2016 at the county, the attorney's office, who was representing the county in that case. So I asked her, I said, did you, let me see. Oh, Sheriff Colander, maybe.
Colander was the sheriff prior to Gore,
right.
Yes.
Yep, and that's how we got into that discussion, because once I told her and named a specific place where I thought the poster was, it clicked in her head that, oh, she knows there was a poster, so now I have to admit that there was a poster, and that is what brought it on.
Well, let me just say something about that poster.
Yeah. I just want to start...
That poster, a photograph of J.C. Playford, was posted in the federal law enforcement building, i.e. the military police headquarters of Miramar Marine Corps Air Station, San Diego, with some text or some whatever to warn all of the MPs about J.C. Playford. Because J.C. Playford's former United States Marine Corps. He was a Marine. And when people who knew the difference between right and wrong saw the picture on the wall, said to the Marine Corps, you better take that picture down right now. You better take that picture down. Now, the San Diego Sheriff's Department didn't know that we knew that they had given a photograph of J.C. Playford to the United States Marine Corps in Southern California, okay? Almost as if he's a terrorist.
So that's why before she knew that I knew, she said, no, there wasn't a poster, but once I mentioned...
When you start leading her down the path and painting her into a corner, she has to change her story.
So, question, now was it you who provided the photograph of Mr. Playford because he identified himself as media and you were the public information officer? In other words, why were you involved in this? And Jan Caldwell said, because of him alleging to be media and because of my position and because of behaviors I'd witnessed firsthand. Did you refer it to, with regard to the behavior you witnessed firsthand, did you refer it to any deputy for investigation of a possible or potential criminal violation? No. So she's admitting that whatever she witnessed JC do was not criminal in nature, but it still caused her to single him out and issue a photograph.
Right.
Did you provide instructions to the lobby deputy what to do with the photograph when you provided it? I believe I said, this is a photograph of J.C. Playford. He is a person known to me that is antagonistic and aggressive, and I'm giving this photograph to you for deputy safety reasons. I would have said something along those lines. That's what Jan Caldwell admits telling the deputy lobby. Now, the lobby deputy. Now, you can't tell me that the deputies who then become bailiffs in the courthouse are not aware of this. Of course they're aware of that.
And they watch him on video in the training academy.
I said, is there any manner of inputting information like that into a computer system to make everyone aware of it if there was a concern for deputy safety?
It's called the Fusion Center.
She says, yes, there would be an email that could go to everyone in the department. And I say, do you know if that happened? No, it did not. With regard to Mr. Playford, it did not. That makes no sense. He's a safety risk, and there's an email that's as easy as clicking to send, and you're not going to send it out to everybody. Of course she did, Ed. But since we didn't have evidence that she did, she could say she didn't, right? That's the way it works.
The universe is behind J.C. Playford.
So I asked, so there was a concern about Mr. Playford gaining access. Oh boy, I hope it's not another audio or visual problem, Ed. Let's check it out and see how we're doing here. Hi, Summary Judgment. Thanks for calling.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. My name is Zoom with Smoky Bear,
Okay.
and the deal is, what law was the very first law after the war with the Britain and the colonists that we won? What is the first law? And that's the Constitution. So no other law can trump it. Oh,
That's the way it's supposed to work. Yes.
Yes. You are 100% correct.
And thank you for
and
calling.
then I heard something about some guy said, well, you don't know the law because the Constitution is this law, and you have this law and another law. I'm like, how could that be?
Where are you calling from? Whereabouts in the country?
I'm in Mount Calm, Texas.
Now, what YouTube channel are you watching us on?
News Now Houston.
Okay. And is the audio and video okay?
Yeah, it sounds real good.
Good, thanks.
And I would like to
That's good.
personally thank Dave Warden for permitting us to come onto his YouTube channel and do live programming. And I've read some comments about what are these people doing here? You know, they're not from Texas. They don't talk about Texas. But guess what? What's happening to J.C. Playford in San Diego is happening to First Amendment auditors, including Dave Warden, all over the country. And it's got to stop.
Yep.
Yeah, I was with David down at the Stir the Pot.
Well, listen,
I was,
please keep supporting Dave and the people like J.C. Playford and anybody that's doing First Amendment audits and exposing government issues that need to be discussed, because the mainstream media is not going to talk about this.
Well, you know what, Ed? Now, what was your name again?
Barry Scott.
Okay, well, what Barry mentioned about the Constitution and you know the initial, he didn't mention the Bill of Rights, but the initial Bill of Rights, you always thought that the Bill of Rights, the First Amendment was created first, and then the Second and the Third and all that. And we went to a talk by a constitutional scholar, Akil Amar,
Who corrected me?
from Yale Law School, who corrected you and said a lot of people think that, but it's not necessarily the case. In other words, the founders believed that the First Amendment was the most important, so they called it the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, and kind of went in line.
And here's what I was told. There was a whole list of rights that everybody wanted included. And let's say freedom of the press, the First Amendment, may have been number 5. But because they didn't consider 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5 moved up to 1. And it just so happens that it, First Amendment, Second Amendment, etc. But what I'm saying to you is, I appreciate these phone calls that come into this program because somebody is taking the time to watch this program, to listen to this program, and watch in real time and hear in real time J.C. Playford tell his story. And I know that Dave Warden talks about his issues all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So please, watch us as often as you can and go to News Now San Diego and you'll be able to watch the videos that J.C. Playford created and posted out of the Vista Courthouse in San Diego County.
Okay, and Barry, did you have?
I got one other thing to say.
That's what I was going to ask.
There's a college that teaches the Constitution. It's called Hillsdale College.
Yes.
Michigan.
So send you a pocket Constitution for your pocket.
Yeah, I have been wanting to go up there for a long time. It's in Michigan. It's in a beautiful area of Michigan, and they actually give kind of limited courses for adults. I mean, it's a great college, but you can also go there if you're an adult. Seems like a nice vacation almost.
Yeah.
So thank you very
Barry,
much for
thanks
calling.
for the
and
call
call
and
again.
call again.
Now,
Already.
thank you. Now, the Pen and the Sword had called in and said, it would be helpful, of course, to respond to people sending in comments and stuff. I just received one from an individual who is attaching or a link to San Diego Sergeant put in his place. I don't know if we have permission to play it or not, though, but thank you, and we're going to develop some means to pay more attention to what our viewers are saying and what they're commenting on for us to improve.
To those people who are posting written comments on the site, I think that's great because people that are watching the program today or they're watching the program a year from now can go through the comments and see what was said. We do that. We read them during the week. We'll go down and we'll read through all the comments. But what I'm saying is this. Pick up the phone. 860-249-1776, and if you've only got 2 or 3 sentences of comments, call in, say your comment verbally, type it on the internet, but say it verbally so there's a record of it in the video section of the show.
Okay, so where did we leave off before we got that viewer's phone call? See, now I can't remember. We were talking. Oh, Jan Caldwell. Let me continue reading the deposition. How could I forgot?
Jan Caldwell.
The public information officer for San Diego County Sheriff's Office. So I asked her, did you ever see the poster, the document with Mr. Playford's picture on it after the day when you handed it to the lobby deputy? I don't go down there often. I may have, but not specifically. Do you know if it was posted in a prominent, visible area? I don't know. So it's possible.
Well,
JC saw it.
let me tell you, J.C. Playford walked into the sheriff's department and saw his picture on the wall.
Right. Did you, after you prepared the document on the computer with the photograph, email it to anyone? Not to my recollection. Do you know if any law enforcement agencies other than the San Diego County Sheriff's Department obtained that document with Mr. Playford's photo? Not to my knowledge. Did you provide Detective Hassan with a copy of the document? Not to my recollection. Now, he was with San Diego Police Department, right?
Who's that?
Detective Hassan, Hassen, didn't
No, San Diego Police Department.
you? San Diego Police Department, that's what I said.
He was in the media center of San Diego PD. Because here's the way San Diego County works. In San Diego County, all law enforcement agencies send pistol permits to the Sheriff's Department. And all law enforcement agencies in San Diego County send requests for media credentials to the San Diego Police Department. So the San Diego PD issues media credentials and no pistol permits. And the San Diego Sheriff's Department issues pistol permits but no media credentials. And as J.C. Playford stated, I am totally unaware of any media credentials issued by the San Diego Superior Court.
And now that brought up a thought in my mind of, what JC went through at this courthouse and the information that he was given that was incorrect. I had a client that I sent to the courthouse in New Haven earlier this week because I was watching the docket and I saw that his case had been docketed. And what that means is when a case is docketed, you can go to the courthouse and get the arrest warrant. It's
The file.
It's public. Well, it's public information, the arrest warrant. Now, police reports are not public information. They're only given to your attorney. So if it's an on-site arrest where you're arrested right away, you're not going to be able to go to the clerk's office and get the police report normally. There's an exception to that, but I won't go into that. But if you do something and then they get an arrest warrant and arrest you later, or if it's alleged that you do something, I should say, and they get an arrest warrant later, then that is public information, and anybody can go to the clerk's office and get it. Some information is sometimes redacted. So I sent my client down there because New Haven's like an hour away, and I knew he'd be able to get it faster than me. And they told him the first time that he went down that it wasn't there. And I knew it was because we had called. And the second time he went down, they said, you can't have it. So then you called down.
And I spoke to the head clerk who said, no, that couldn't have happened in my office because anything in the file is disclosable. Well, okay, what's your name? Give me the name. I'm going to send the client back into the courthouse, and if he has any problems, he'll ask for you.
And he went back in and got it.
But now let me give it, just because this happens to pop into my head. In Connecticut, I don't know about Texas, I don't know about California, Florida, wherever. When a person is arrested on a warrant, Connecticut law, statutes, the state statutes, the penal code, whatever it is, requires that a copy of the warrant be handed to the person being arrested. He gets taken into custody, he goes to the police department, they mug him, they print him, they take all of the information, they bond them out, and on the way out the door, if the accused says, I'd like a copy of the warrant, they're supposed to give it to him.
It's a little gray.
They always say no.
It's a little gray.
But then I called up state police headquarters, because it's happened to the troop, and the people in legal affairs, they said, well, why don't you do me a favor? Here, read this section of state law and you tell me what it says. And he said yes, so they had to have the warrant sent to legal affairs to be redacted, and then they provided it to the accused.
I mean, why would... Go ahead and get that.
Summary judgment.
Yeah, I'm calling in to give a report from the Boston Bureau.
Yes, sir.
I was wondering if, and I'm sorry because I cannot claim that I was watching. Usually I watch, but in this instance I wasn't. So if I've interrupted the flow of some discussion, I apologize.
No, you
did not.
You have some important information up there from Boston, so we're glad the Bureau's calling in. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to let you know that the third smallest park in the national park system is the home where John F. Kennedy was born in Brookline, Massachusetts. And I did a personal tour of the facility today, and it was quite spectacular. We're coming up on in 4 days' time, May 29th, 1917 will be the 102nd anniversary of the birth of our 35th president.
He was born in the same year my father.
And so I found it fitting to stop and take the tour that I had never taken all the years that I lived here, but actually took the tour by the National Park Service, which was spectacular. And he was actually born in the home, and there was a nice crowd of people there today. And so it was kind of fitting to do that on Memorial Day.
It was. Now, what year was he born?
1917.
1917.
My father was born on May 20th, 1917, and John F. Kennedy was born, I believe, on the 29th.
29th, correct.
So my father was 9 days older than JFK.
Now, do you know what the two parks are that are even smaller than the park you visited today?
You know, I can't say that I know. I did ask the ranger that very question, and he had the answers right off the top. One of them is in Maryland, but they're basically home sites. Same type of thing, and he said they're, you know, I think it's almost they're all very equivalent in size. But so they kind of get edged out. Like this is number 3 by, you know, by a couple square feet kind of thing. But yeah, the Rose Kennedy repurchased the home in the mid-60s because she wanted to gift it to the American people. And so that's where the president and 3 of his siblings were born. That's where they first lived after they were married, you know, his parents. And so it was nice. It was nice to see. And then they went about restoring it back to how it was when they lived there. They went and, you know, they took artifacts from, well, some of them they had to collect. But so they put the house back to the way that Rose Kennedy recalled it being when the president was born. And it was neat to see.
All right, and now
That's in Brookline, Mass, right?
Yeah, it's right off of,
And then you can go. I just want.
you know, which I guess technically is considered, I don't know if they consider it, I mean, certainly it's Boston, but I think they, not part of Boston City, but, so, you know, it's basically right off of Beacon Street and Harvard Ave.
Okay.
Your Coolidge Corner is kind of the, you know, probably the closest landmark that people would know. But,
Right.
you know, but there's a fair amount of people here for Memorial Day weekend, and kids moving in, or I guess moving out. I should say moving out. It's like, you know, a lot of people preparing to move out of various college dorms and stuff. There's a lot of moving trucks.
All right, listen.
But, and unfortunately, no activity at the federal court, so I can't say that I got any B-roll footage of the federal court.
Well, yesterday was the big day at the federal court in Boston. Now, Ed and I are doing a college bribery scheme.
Well, you and
Series.
somebody else because I got sick.
I think we've done 8 or 9 episodes
I
that
think you're at 12.
that are posted at Summary Judgment, and Dan has been standing in for you on a lot of them, but I read a very, very disturbing article related to that story this morning, and it's about Greg and Marcia Abbott. Now, those names are easy to remember for anybody that was a fan of the Brady Bunch, because Greg and Marcia, of course, were the 2 oldest kids, but there's a couple named Greg and Marcia Abbott, and they did some things to get their kids, you know, into college that are alleged to have been illegal. But there was a story in the paper today that Greg Abbott's son, who was not involved in this scandal, he wasn't the one that went to college, assaulted his father. And, you know, I know that there's a lot of sort of what's called schadenfreude, where deep down people take pleasure in the misery of others, especially when the others happen to be very wealthy and have a lot at their disposal. And when they get into trouble, people are like, oh, look at them, you know. And I know J.C. Playford, I talked to him about this at the beginning of the scandal, and he had said, none of these people are going to jail. And I said, yeah, they are, and they are. These people are going to go to jail for this. Whether it's too long or too short is a matter of opinion, but they're going to jail. And if you think about all the stress this is causing in these people's lives, these people are human. And I can't imagine there's not going to be more fallout from this in terms of people feeling, you know, unstable mentally and psychologically. And when you think about it in those terms, you kind of say, you know, they may be rich, but they still got problems.
They're still human.
And they're still human. And I don't know, that made me sad when I read that article this morning.
All right, well, I want to change the topic.
Okay.
To the Boston Reporter, can you hear me good?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I want to commend you for your dedication to, what the hell is that machine called that you get on?
you talking about the ergometer?
Yeah, it's called an ergometer.
Yes, they call it. Yeah, well, yes.
It's a rowing machine. It's a rowing machine that doesn't go anywhere.
It's the one that Lori Laughlin and Massimo Giannulli took a picture of their daughter on, Bella, or Olivia, I'm not sure which, to get her into the University of Southern California, when in fact they had never rowed in their lives.
Okay, so
Yeah, and of course, if they were coxswains, they would never really have to row to begin with. But yeah.
okay, now
I know too much.
I want you, because some people are dedicated to certain things and some people are not. Some people try to be dedicated to some things, and they can't. I want you to tell me a milestone that you passed recently about how often you row on this rowing machine.
Well, I'm not comfortable getting into that. It's stuff that's, there's people who do all sorts of crazy things, and that's not my thing. I'll talk about it in rowing circles, but this is a legal show, and we'll stick to that.
All I can say.
It's something that helps keep me sane, Ed.
Okay, in my car, I have a 2016 Toyota Camry, and I am just above 99,000 miles. So I'm going to be rolling 100,000 miles pretty soon in my car. And I know that this man has rode to the moon and back on these goddamn machines.
Or maybe
I
further,
mean, he's
who
got
knows?
to, I can see you out in outer space going like this. So,
So any other? I know, and I don't know if the caller wants to talk about this or not, but I was told that there is a tour that this caller may have gone on up in Boston that lasts 5 or 6 hours, where you walk around and look at the different sites.
I'd be dead.
And that just sounds great. I would like to do that someday.
Now, have you ever?
I will tell you that there is a gentleman who I describe as a tour guide extraordinaire who has dedicated his life. He's originally from Connecticut. Who has dedicated his life to returning to Boston after his family name. So his name is Ben Edwards. Originally from Boston, and you can find him online at walkingboston.com. And one of the most exceptional tour guides that you can, certainly for Boston. I mean, and by the way, the National Park Service rangers today were extraordinary for the site that they were working at in terms of their knowledge of just a lot of little details and their ability not to stay on script, but their ability to respond in detail to the questions that were being asked from folks, which was really neat to see more how they responded, and they had a lot of stuff.
Well,
This tour of Boston was a very special historical tour, and we spent hours with a group going around to all the historical, I shouldn't say all because there's many sites that we did not get to, but certainly quite a number of the historical cemeteries and historical sites along the Freedom Trail, and talked a lot about the historical significance back from, essentially what led to the American Revolution. But this gentleman's tie is that his family, and I forget the exact number of, great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, but there was he's a direct lineal descendant of Captain Benjamin Leland Edwards, who was in the Sons of Liberty, who was at the Boston Tea Party, who was buried in Cobb's burial ground, and we did visit the stone. And so it's not only him telling the story of the history of Boston, but for him it's a very personal story, because as he starts off his tour, he tells people that, he's basically returned to Boston after 150 years after his family had left to go, move elsewhere.
Well, I just want to tell you, there's not too many. I was impressed with the Grand Canyon and Mount Rushmore and things like that, but I want to tell you, the hair went up on the back of my neck when I stood in, I guess it's the cemetery at the Old South Church, and I read the names on the headstones.
Oh, I was with you, right?
Yep.
Didn't we went up for a
Yep,
conference?
Yep. And I have to tell you that to be in the presence of the place where they are interned was, to me, a very moving experience. And the last time I experienced that was I was in Hawaii, and I just started one day to drive up to Punch Bowl, which is the National Cemetery of the Pacific.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the people that you know the names from World War II are buried there. And I get very emotional. I don't do funerals. I don't do any of that. I stay away. But to be in that cemetery in Boston and to read those names and to realize that their remains are right there. They are the ones.
Samuel Adams, Paul Revere, Benjamin Franklin's parents, although a lot of people think Benjamin Franklin's buried there, but he's not. He's buried in Philadelphia. But Benjamin Franklin's parents are there, and he was the one who had the monument erected to his parents. 3 signers of the Declaration of Independence are in that cemetery. I mean, there's
Wow.
one historical name after another.
Mm.
And it's nice to see. But it's sad to see over time, of course, the condition of some of the stones.
Well, you're up there on the right weekend.
Yeah.
You're up there on the right weekend, Dave.
So keep reporting.
Indeed.
So
and I'm monitoring to see if there's any other breaking news items. But other than a shooting in Brockton at midnight, which I wasn't going to go cover. So far, so good.
Okay, well, if you can get any B-roll up there.
stay safe. See you when you get back. And I'm about ready to go into master control and see if I can get the closing to run.
Bye.
All right.
Take it
Bye.
easy, brother.
So the website for this is walkingboston.com, and these are tours that Ben Edwards gives, and apparently he's a descendant of Captain Benjamin Leland Edwards, and I know Dan had reported that it lasted at least 5 hours.
Well, I have to tell you, there is a girl down in Florida, Judy Temple Knapp, who's been doing genealogy on my mother's side. And there is evidence that if I wanted to be sons of the American Revolution, I would qualify. Females would be daughters of the American Revolution. They would qualify. And I can't remember what town it is up in Massachusetts. They actually have this one day, and there's some relative, but yeah, there's a whole bunch of crazy stuff. But growing up in New England, sometimes that happens.
Ed, today's not Memorial Day. It's Memorial Day weekend.
Right.
I don't know if you're going to be available maybe to do a special show on Memorial Day. Maybe we will, because we're both veterans. You're a veteran of combat, and I know Memorial Day is an exceptionally...
We're going to change the subject.
Okay.
Summary judgment, last call.
Hey, this is Big Shitty. Am I on?
Hey, Big Shitty, you're on.
Hey, we were just talking online that we don't really understand the credentials that you were talking about for the media. Maybe you can explain the credentials that you were talking about.
Let me see if I can find one that's set someplace.
They're over there. But
Go get
talk
one.
about what San Diego gives out, which we think is wrong.
San Diego Police Department, if you walk into the police department and fill out an application, they'll issue you a set of, if you qualify, they'll issue you a set of media credentials. Well, you know something? If you go out and, is that the yellow one?
Yeah, I'll go out and get the other one.
Yeah, it's in the door of my car.
Okay.
American News, for many years, has issued media credentials to selected individuals who request them, and I probably am as guilty as anybody else, but I need to qualify people too, because I don't want somebody out there representing American News who's going to be a total asshole. But J.C. Playford is an exception to the rule, because I know that they've antagonized him to the point where he bites back. So Rachel's gone out, and I'm going to show you a set of American News media credentials. And I will... Now I'm going to probably have to get up closer to the camera to do this, so bear with me.
All right. I got a little bit of lag here, so I can't really see on the
Okay,
computer,
hold on.
but I'm just listening to you. But it was my understanding that there's no regulations to the freedom of press, and anybody could be the press.
You're absolutely correct. Now,
Maybe restricted areas.
what I'm showing right now is my set of media credentials from American News. And I have a membership card for the National Press Photographers Association. And I have what's called a Hartford Fireline Pass, okay? And it was issued to me in 1989, and it's indefinite, so I've been doing this for a while. And this is a set of media credentials. This is Rachel, okay? And that's from the International Association of Chiefs of Police. And we have American News does in fact issue media credentials. You're not an employee of American News, but what you are is you're recognized as a representative of American News when you're trying to access a scene. That's what it is, Big Shitty.
All right. I'm just understand. I don't understand if I'm going to need one for anything really, because I identify as an independent journalist, like a lot of people do, but I don't have any credentials, so the police, kind of blow me off like I'm not really news. I'm fake news or something.
Well, hopefully, this Nevis v. Bartlett, which is a case coming out of Alaska, if it's rendered the right way between now and the end of next month, the end of June, the U.S. Supreme Court's going to render a decision. They've already had their oral argument. If, in fact, that case comes down, it may help us with our case against San Diego County, and it may work to clarify cleaning up some of this retaliatory animus on the part of law enforcement. Because here's what happened. Here's what happens, Big Shitty. It goes like
I
this.
left the door open.
It goes like this. You go up to a scene and you insist on being able to video or to still photo or to audio record, and they start giving you shit. And you say, go fuck yourself, or I'm not moving. And then they arrest you for interfering with a police officer. Well, the question is this. You're going to have to zoom in a little. It goes like this. The question is, even though you've been arrested for telling him to go shit in his hat, can you still sue him for what he did to you that caused you to go off? That's the question. Can you do something regarding what was done to you? And listen, we're out of time. I got to get in mass. You know something? There's going to be no closing today. I'm just going to go into master control, and I got to pull it to black, and we're all done. But Big Shitty, I like when you call. I like your handle, Big Shitty, because I've always been a Big Shitty myself.
Yeah. I'm going to call next week, though, because we ran out of time this week.
We did, because I had to address what the San Diego courts did to J.C. Playford.
Yeah, I understand that.
Okay? So you stay safe, and everybody that's out there with a camera, get your videos, get them up on YouTube, and don't back away if you don't have to. Have a good day.
10 feet, right? Yep. All right.
All right, bye-bye. Okay, into master control.